They called her dullard so many times that even she began to believe it. Every time her name was mentioned in class, laughter followed. Every time results were shared, pity filled the room. And every time her parents looked at her, hope quietly died a little more. But what none of them knew was this. The girl they mocked was carrying a gift that would one day silence every voice that laughed at her. They judged her by her grades. They ignored her hands that could create magic. They mocked a mind that only needed someone to believe in it. This is not just a story about failure. It is a story about hidden greatness, true friendship, and what happens when one person chooses to see value where the world sees nothing. Her name was Aderinsola, but almost nobody called her that. In Brightway College, students had nicknames for one another. Some were sweet. Some were funny. But the one given to Aderinsola was cruel. They called her dullard. It started as a joke in her first year. By her second year, it became her identity. Aderinsola sat at the back of the lecture hall every day. Not because she wanted to hide, but because she felt safer there. The front seats belonged to the smart ones. The students who always raised their hands, answered questions, and argued confidently with lecturers. That world was not for her. Whenever a lecturer asked a question and her eyes accidentally met theirs, her heart would beat fast. Her palms would sweat. Her mind would go blank. Even when she knew the answer a little, fear would swallow it. And when she made mistakes, which was often, laughter followed. Of course it's her. What do you expect from dullard? She's wasting her parents' money. The words were never loud, but they were sharp. They cut deeper than shouting. Her results reflected their opinions. Red ink filled her scripts. Carryovers followed her name like a shadow. Subjects confused her no matter how hard she tried. Mathematics felt like a foreign language. Accounting numbers danced on the page. Even courses she studied all night for slipped away during exams. She was trying. But effort without understanding felt like running in the dark. At home, things were worse. Her father stopped asking about her grades. Her mother sighed whenever school was mentioned. One evening, she overheard a conversation that broke something inside her. Maybe university is not for her, her father said quietly. We should have known, she has always been slow. Slow. That word stayed with her longer than any insult from school. That night, Aderinsola cried into her pillow, silently, so no one would hear. She did not cry because she failed again. She cried because she felt useless. She believed something was wrong with her. What she didn't know was that her problem was never intelligence. It was unseen talent. Aderinsola spoke little, but her mind was loud. While lecturers talked, her eyes often drifted to shapes, shadows, and movements around her. The way sunlight touched the classroom wall. The way a classmate's hair curled. The way people's faces changed when they smiled or frowned. Her notebook was rarely neat. Between lecture notes were strange drawings. Faces. Hands. Trees. Animals. Sometimes, whole scenes appeared without her planning them. Drawing made her calm. When life felt too heavy, she drew. When words failed her, her pencil spoke. But nobody noticed. In college, drawings did not count as intelligence. Art did not help her pass exams. So she hid it. One afternoon, while waiting for the next lecture, she sat alone under a mango tree. Her bag was on her lap, her head bent low. Slowly, she brought out a pencil and a small sketchbook she always hid. She began to draw. She drew a girl sitting in a dark room, surrounded by shadows. But from the girl's hands came light, bright, colorful, alive. She didn't notice someone standing behind her. Wow! The voice startled her. She quickly tried to close the book, her heart racing. I'm sorry, the girl said quickly. I didn't mean to scare you. This is beautiful. Aderinsola looked up. That was the first time someone looked at her drawing and didn't laugh. That was the day everything began to change. The girl who spoke to Aderinsola that afternoon was called Chemisola. Chemi was everything Aderinsola was not: confident, expressive, and warm. She had a way of talking that made people feel safe, as if she truly cared about their thoughts. Instead of asking about grades or mocking her mistakes, Chemi did something different. She sat down. "Can I see it again?" Chemi asked softly. Aderinsola hesitated. No one had ever asked to see her work before. Slowly, with shaking hands, she opened the sketchbook again. Chemi's eyes widened. "You did all this?" she asked. Aderinsola nodded, embarrassed. "These faces, they feel real," Chemi said. "You didn't just draw them. You understood them." That sentence stayed in Aderinsola's heart. From that day, Chemi began to spend time with her. Not out of pity. Not out of curiosity. But out of genuine interest. They sat together in class. They ate together. They talked. And for the first time, Aderinsola felt heard. One day, Chemi asked a simple question that changed everything. "Who told you that you are dull?" Aderinsola laughed bitterly. "Everyone." Chemi shook her head. "No. They told you that you don't understand books. That's different." Aderinsola didn't understand at first. Chemi explained patiently, "Some people think fast with numbers. Some think with words. But some think with images, ideas, and creativity. That's also intelligence." Nobody had ever explained it that way. For the first time, Aderinsola wondered. What if I'm not broken? Chemi didn't rush her. She didn't say, "You'll be great." She didn't say, "You'll prove them wrong." She simply showed up, every day. They started meeting after classes. Sometimes in the library. Sometimes under the mango tree. Sometimes in Chemi's room. Chemi introduced her to something new, animations. She showed her short animated videos on her laptop. Stories told through drawings that moved, spoke, and breathed. Aderinsola was fascinated. "These drawings, they're alive," she whispered. Chemi smiled. "That's because someone believed in them enough to bring them to life." Slowly, they began to practice. Chemi taught her how to scan her drawings. How to color digitally. How to give simple movements to characters. At first, Aderinsola was scared. "I'm not good with computers," she said. Chemi laughed gently. "You weren't good with books either, yet you kept trying. Let's try this too." Something magical happened. Her hands moved with confidence. Her eyes focused sharply. Her mind became calm and clear. Hours passed without her noticing. For the first time in her life, learning felt natural. And something else changed too. As her confidence in art grew, fear slowly left her heart. She began to listen better in class. She asked questions without shaking. She started understanding things she once feared. Chemi helped her connect lessons to pictures and ideas. Math became patterns. Economics became stories. Even difficult subjects began to make sense. Not because Aderinsola suddenly became smart. But because she finally learned in her own language. She was unlocking gifts that had been sleeping inside her all along. And she didn't even know yet how far this journey would take her. The change did not happen overnight. But one day, something small happened that no one expected. It was during a general studies class, a subject most students feared because the lecturer loved asking unexpected questions. The lecturer spoke about visual communication and how images can influence the human mind. As he spoke, Aderinsola felt something stir inside her. For the first time, the topic felt familiar. The lecturer paused and asked, "Can anyone explain this concept in a simple way?" Silence filled the hall. Hands that usually went up stayed down. Before fear could stop her, Aderinsola's hand slowly rose. Kemi turned sharply to look at her, shocked. The lecturer nodded. "Yes, you." Aderinsola stood up. Her legs shook, but her voice came out clear. "Sir, visual communication is when ideas are passed using images instead of words. Like drawings, symbols, or animations. Sometimes, people understand pictures faster than long explanations." The class went quiet. No laughter. No whispers. The lecturer smiled. "Very good," he said. "That is one of the clearest explanations I've heard today." Aderinsola sat down slowly, her heart beating fast. She heard something she had never heard before. Claps. Soft at first. Then louder. Some students stared at her in disbelief. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked ashamed. That day, the name Dullard was not spoken. Not because everyone suddenly respected her. But because they were confused. And confusion is the beginning of change. At home, change was happening too. Her mother noticed first. Aderinsola no longer locked herself in her room to cry. Instead, she stayed up late drawing, designing, and sometimes smiling to herself. One evening, her mother walked into her room without knocking. "What are you always doing?" she asked, tired but curious. Aderinsola hesitated, then showed her tablet. Her mother stared. "These are your drawings." Aderinsola nodded. "I'm learning animation." Her mother sat down slowly. Nobody had ever explained her daughter like this before. When her father came home, her mother showed him the same work. He adjusted his glasses and looked closely. "You did this?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke words Aderinsola had waited years to hear. "We may not have understood you," he said. "But maybe, we were wrong." Hope returned to that house, slowly, carefully, like a fragile flame. Her parents began to encourage her. They asked questions. They listened. And with support at home and belief at school, Aderinsola rose faster. Her grades improved. Carryovers disappeared. Confidence replaced fear. Some classmates began to whisper differently now. "That's her drawing. She did that animation. Is that really Dullard?" But their whispers no longer mattered. Because Aderinsola had finally found her voice. Respect did not come immediately. Some students still whispered. Some still laughed behind her back. But laughter has a weakness, it cannot survive truth. One afternoon, Brightway College announced an interdepartmental creative competition. Students were asked to present ideas that could solve social problems using creativity. Most students ignored it. But Kemi didn't. "This is your space," she told Aderinsola. "This is where you belong." Together, they worked day and night. Aderinsola drew a short animation about a girl who was constantly mocked until she discovered her gift. It was simple, emotional, and honest. When presentation day came, the hall was full. As the animation played, the room grew quiet. Students saw themselves on that screen. The mockers. The silence. The pain. By the time the animation ended, some eyes were wet. Then applause broke out, loud and long. The judges stood. "Who created this?" one asked. Aderinsola stood up. Gasps filled the room. Some students bowed their heads. Others looked away. That day, laughter died. And regret was born. Weeks later, results were announced. Aderinsola won first place. She was invited on stage during a school event. The same students who once mocked her now clapped the loudest. When she took the microphone, her hands shook, but her heart was strong. "I was once called dull," she said simply. "But I wasn't dull. I was just unseen." Silence followed. "I thank the friend who saw me, and everyone who ever felt small like I did. You are not useless. You are just waiting to be discovered." Her parents cried in the audience. Kemi smiled, tears in her eyes. And in that moment, Aderinsola became more than a success story. She became a lesson. Seedling lessons for viewers. Mockery comes from ignorance. Purpose silences insults. One opportunity can rewrite a life. Everyone has a hidden gift. After the competition, Aderinsola's life changed in ways she never imagined. Lecturers began to notice her. Some asked her to help design presentations. Others encouraged her to combine her art with academics. She was invited to join the school's creative team. For the first time, she felt needed. Her grades continued to rise. Not because exams became easier, but because she believed in herself. She studied with confidence, using drawings, colors, and animations to understand complex ideas. Even subjects she once failed badly now made sense. One afternoon, a student who once mocked her approached her quietly. "I'm sorry," he said. "We didn't know." Aderinsola smiled gently. "I didn't know either." At home, her parents spoke of her with pride. They attended exhibitions. They shared her work with friends. They listened to her dreams. Aderinsola dreamed of creating animations that would teach children, inspire struggling students, and tell stories that gave hope. She was no longer trying to prove anyone wrong. She was simply becoming who she was always meant to be. Years later, Aderinsola returned to Brightway College, not as a struggling student, but as a guest speaker. She stood on the same stage where she was once laughed at. Now, the hall was silent with respect. She spoke slowly, clearly. "Failure does not mean foolishness," she said. "Bad grades do not mean no future. And being different does not mean being useless." She told them about a time when no one believed in her. About a friend who gave her time. About parents who learned to hope again. And most importantly, she said. About gifts that sleep inside people until someone chooses to see them. The hall erupted in applause. That day, many students went home thinking differently, about themselves, their friends, and the words they used. Aderinsola smiled, knowing her story was no longer just hers. It was now a light for others. Never judge anyone by one weakness. Never mock what you don't understand. And never give up on yourself. Because your gift may be hidden, but it is real. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to change a life. Be that person. If this story touched your heart, pause for a moment, and think. Think about how many times you have judged someone too quickly. Think about how many times you have laughed at a person who was struggling. Think about how many times you called someone slow, dull, or useless, not knowing the battles they were fighting inside. Aderinsola was not dull. She was undiscovered. Her mind was not empty. It was full of pictures, ideas, and gifts waiting for a chance. But the world does not always have patience. The world loves quick results. The world loves labels. And sadly, many beautiful souls are broken, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief. This story is not just about one girl in a college. It is about millions of people sitting quietly at the back of life, believing they are not enough, simply because they don't fit into the system. If you are watching this and you feel like Aderinsola once felt. If you have been mocked, ignored, or written off. Please hear this clearly. Your struggle is not your identity. Your weakness is not your future. And your current failure is not your final chapter. Sometimes, your gift does not shine in classrooms. Sometimes, it shines in creativity. Sometimes, in kindness. Sometimes, in ideas the world has not learned to value yet. And sometimes, it only needs one person to notice it. Be careful with your words. Be gentle with people. Because the person you laugh at today may become the lesson you learn from tomorrow. And if you are a parent, a teacher, or a friend, please look again. Listen again. Encourage again. Because inside that dull child may be a leader. Inside that struggling student may be a creator. Inside that quiet soul may be greatness waiting for time. This story ends here. But the message must not. If you believe in second chances. If you believe in hidden gifts. If you believe no human being is useless. Then let this story live in you. And remember. Sometimes, the brightest light comes from the place everyone ignored. Thank you for watching.